Greetings, beautiful, dear soul that you are. Of course, you're more than that. I know that. Words are limiting. You're unlimited. And you're beyond infinite. You know. When you study the words, you study the etymology of the words, you know what you're actually speaking into manifestation. And a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't matter, it's just the words. No, words are matter. They make matter. And it's also and intention. Intention's very important. But it's not either or. See, people always go, well, it's this or it's that. No, this is, again, that mindset of duality that I have to choose between sides, colors, red pill, blue pill, whatever. Forget pills. Don't take any pills. And you don't have to take something on the outer to get you to know who you are on the inner, in that sense. Sometimes that is true, though that does have an assist. But, you know, that... Yes, yes, yes. See, find your roots. This is my topic. Find your roots. I've been doing a lot of gardening over the last few years, and I used to have an organic farm up in Washington Retreat Center for Adventures and Enlightenment. But I really didn't do the gardening. A little bit, and I'd listen to it, and I'd hear it, and enjoy the wonderful vegetables and fruits, and everything was just fabulous. Anyway, so learning how to garden, and how that is also very demonstrative of how we live our lives. Because the way you, first of all, whatever you're doing is following a pattern if it comes from the mind. So we then tend to be creatures of habit, because that habit gets established through repetition, through actually, you can change a habit in a moment. The moment you notice you have a habit and you don't want to do it, then you notice that you don't do it again. You say, yeah, but then the habit, if it keeps coming back, then you visualize yourself and get into the feeling of it, how you actually want to be. Because the mind can't tell this artificial, the app of the so-called mind that is not your mind, is it's mechanical, so it is repetitious. And what happens when you want to find your roots, it's that you want to find the cause of everything, and you want to get to the roots of who you really are. And that takes to actually, what would you say, it could be in stages. That first of all, if you want to get to where you're going to really empower yourself in the human way, then you want to actually start recognizing nature and the elements, and when we give our power away to something material, we lose then, in a sense we lose it. You never lose it, but we misdirect our power into manifesting that which is eventually very detrimental to human life, to animal life, to plant life, okay? Because it's making everything artificial. So when people are completely consumed with their media phones or the internet, or we can use things for what we need it for until we don't need that any longer. And you have to look at that too. Stairs are used to climb. And once you get to a certain step, you don't really need those steps before. But it didn't mean that you're going to make yourself wrong and beat yourself up for the steps or whatever you did before, because it actually, you could call it a mistake, you could call it something else. And then you say, well, the reason I got here was because of that. No, that isn't true. We do things, and then we want to look for a reason to justify while we're doing it, you see. Well, my father did that, my family did that, they did this too. People are self-suffering, and what we've done is we're self-policing, we're self-torturing, self-abuse, because the mind is the greatest terrorist weapon ever invented. Because when you start to believe your thoughts, you won't even be even close to the roots of who you are. So it's like in going barefooted, I'm putting the sole of my foot, which soul, with the soul, S-O-U-L, of the earth, you see. And another soul can also be just individual or one and all that you are, but you are whole, complete, and perfect as who you really are. free of all overlays of ignorance. So anyway, when you find your roots, first of all, you want to find your roots as a human, and so then you then start getting more into nature, because the body is made of the elements, and the body and such is part of this earth, and there is the real earth as well as a virtual reality earth that most people are perceiving now, because they're not experiencing directly, they're experiencing virtually and everything. It's virtual, it's not real. And then they want to call this the real, because it's like a movie reel that's going to project the real. When you're in your roots, you're in the real. You are in your center. In also, you're also acknowledging the elements and appreciating them, and you're grounding yourself. You're tuning into the integrity of nature. Now, your other roots. People say, well, I just look at my roots as my family roots or that sort of thing. Well, that's not your real roots. And in gardening, the key to really good plants is to feed the roots, to go to the very center of who you are and feed that, rather than just feeding the manifestation, feeding the creation, reacting always to other people, what's going on, what they think, what they say, they want me to do, what's going to, what's going to happen to me, which we think is the body. I'm me. That's not me. No, me. So the being that I am, when you get to the roots, and one of the things that I like about studying Vedic knowledge, and that means Veda, the word Veda is a Sanskrit word meaning knowledge, so it's not like limited to any one specific place, because absolute truth is always the absolute truth, and for anybody to believe anything, there has to be some truth there. And what happens is people then get suckered in with some truth and say, well, absolutely everything here is the truth, and if you don't believe it, you're going to hell, and you're going to be burning in fire. People are in hell here, you see. People are heaven and hell. These are two dualities again. And actually, this is all created by heat and cold, by temperature, doing all this. So anyway, my roots are in myself. And when you do your meditation, you do your breathing, you get that time alone where, because, and then you could trace those roots, like in this ancient teaching of going back to who we really are, where it was, and yet everything's been infiltrated. I realize it, because I'm a researcher. So you have to always know the distinction between what's true and false, but you're going to know it instantly within yourself. Not the mind, not that it fits your pictures or your images, but you're going to know. And so I call myself a rootist. Whenever I would study anything in seminary or anything else, I'd always go to the roots of where did they get that, and where did they get that, and where did they get that, and who did that, and who owns that, and who got that. See, when you start doing that, most people have no interest in that, because they're so involved in fulfilling their role they're playing in this script that they believe is who they are, when it's just a role that you're playing. The real root of it is to get to the real heart and feed that. Feed your soul, feed yourself with the truth that always is. So as you do that, you no longer have fear, and you no longer have self-doubt, and you are in that moment when people say, how is your days going? I'm not in a daze, confused state where you get for the week, all week long, you get weaker, and then you have the weekend. That's for the weekend to recharge your battery so you could go out and do the same thing you did last week over and over and over with relentless, monotonous regularity. Continual. So it's that when you get to the root and to the heart of who you are, that's what you want to feed. And so as I look at the garden that I'm growing in my yard, and I go, what do those roots need? What do your roots need in order to blossom, in order to bloom, in order to experience the tremendous freedom of yourself? you see, the divine that you are part of. So find and your roots and feed your roots, and then that will allow the magnificence of who you are to blossom and to be you to the full.
Cool.
Gotcha.
Okay, good one. Good job.